Your sister's housewarming party was wonderful, my mom said. So when are you going to do yours? I looked at her and replied, I already had one last year. You just weren't invited. Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Deep breath, slightly trembling voice, then a surge of conviction. I've spent years trying to make my family see me, really see me. But when my mom, with a piece of salmon still balancing on her fork, asked when I was going to finally catch up to my sister, that was it. That was the moment everything shattered. 3 years I'd waited to say those words, 3 years of simmering injustice, and now, across a fancy restaurant table, the truth finally, brutally, came out. But this story doesn't start with dinner. Oh no. It starts much, much earlier. It's a pattern that began when I was just 12, and my older sister, Jessica, was 14. And it's taken me until I'm 32 to finally, truly break free from it. Growing up, Jessica was the family's golden child. She was 2 years older, effortlessly athletic, academically brilliant, and just had this charm that made every adult fawn over her. Me? I was the quiet one, the bookworm, the one who found solace in stories instead of social gatherings. Our parents divorced when I was 10. 2 years later, Mom remarried Robert, and that's when the dynamic truly cemented. Robert already had a daughter, but she lived far away. Jessica quickly became his surrogate, the one he could spoil, brag about, and be endlessly proud of. I became practically invisible. Jessica sailed through life. Full scholarship to college. High-paying marketing job right out of school. Lavish wedding to her college sweetheart, Mike, mostly funded by Mom and Robert. Me? I worked my way through community college at a bookstore. I bounced between retail and admin jobs, desperately trying to find my footing. And family dinners? They became a constant chorus of focusing on my career, which was just code for, can't keep a man. The funny thing is, I wasn't struggling as much as they thought. While Jessica was living the perfect, Instagram-ready life everyone expected, I was quietly building something of my own. I had a knack for numbers, a real understanding of financial markets. I started freelancing, doing bookkeeping for small businesses, then moved into financial consulting. I was making great money, but I lived simply. I didn't feel the need to broadcast my success. Meanwhile, Jessica's perfect life started to show cracks. Mike, it turned out, wasn't as ambitious as she'd hoped. Content with his middle management job and weekend golf, their marriage became a public performance, passive-aggressive social media posts and increasingly expensive purchases designed to look like happiness. But to Mom and Robert, Jessica was still the success story. The one with the husband, the nice house, the perfect life. And I was still the disappointment, the one they had to make excuses for at family gatherings. The breaking point arrived 3 years ago. I'd finally met someone wonderful, an architect named Alex. We'd been together for 8 months, and I was genuinely, incredibly happy. I thought, this is it. Maybe now they'll finally see me differently. I brought Alex to Jessica's birthday party. It was a huge, flashy affair in a private room at an upscale restaurant. I was nervous, but excited to introduce him. Within an hour, it was glaringly obvious, Jessica had set her sights on him. She monopolized his conversation, laughed a little too loudly at his jokes, found excuses to touch his arm. Every time I tried to join in, she'd pivot to topics I knew nothing about, or bring up shared memories with Mike that totally excluded me. The worst part? Watching Alex's face light up when she talked to him. Jessica always had that magnetic quality, and I could see him falling under her spell. By the end of the night, they were exchanging business cards, talking about some architectural project her marketing firm was involved in. 2 weeks later, Alex broke up with me. "We're not compatible long-term," he said. "You're a really nice person, but I don't see a future for us." 3 months after that, Jessica posted photos on Instagram. Her and Mike, having dinner with Alex and his new girlfriend. Apparently, they'd all become great friends through that business connection. I never found out if anything inappropriate happened, and honestly, it didn't matter. What mattered was that once again, Jessica had taken something that was mine and made it about her. And once again, my family acted like it was perfectly natural. That's when I made a decision. I was done. Done trying to earn their approval, their respect. I was going to focus on building the life I wanted, and I wasn't going to share it with people who couldn't see my worth. I threw myself into my work. My financial consulting firm, targeting small and medium businesses, took off. I was good at it, really good. Within a year, I was making more money than I'd ever dreamed. Within 2, I was making more than Jessica and Mike combined. I bought a beautiful house in a trendy neighborhood. Not a McMansion like Jessica's, but a restored 1920s craftsman. Original hardwood floors, a gorgeous garden, character for days. And I met someone new, David. He's a pediatric surgeon. Kind eyes, dry sense of humor. He doesn't care about impressing anyone. We moved in together, and 6 months later, he proposed. It wasn't flashy. Just a quiet Sunday morning, coffee in the garden, reading the newspaper. The ring was simple, elegant. When I said yes, he kissed me like I was the most precious thing in the world. I didn't tell my family right away. I was savoring my happiness, protecting it from their inevitable criticism. David understood. He grew up with a narcissistic mother, so he knew all about protecting good things from toxic family dynamics. We planned a small, intimate wedding. Just our closest friends, his lovely family, and the few family members who actually supported me. We also decided to have a housewarming party. Not to show off, but to celebrate the beautiful space we'd created. We invited friends, David's colleagues, my clients who'd become friends, and his amazing family. And I made a deliberate choice. Mom, Dave, and Jessica were not on the guest list. Was it spite? Maybe a little. But mostly, it was about protecting my peace. They'd spent decades making me feel small. I wasn't inviting that energy into my beautiful new home. The party was magical. Lights strung through the garden. Laughter everywhere. David's sister-in-law, a chef, helped me create an amazing spread. David's parents pulled me aside, telling me how happy I made their son. My best friend Sarah toasted me, proud of the life I'd built. It was warm, welcoming, full of genuine love. Looking around, I felt a sense of belonging I'd never experienced with my own family. Of course, word got back to my mother. About a month later, she called. "Sarah, I heard you had some kind of party at your house." Her tone was carefully neutral, but I heard the hurt, the confusion. "Yes," I said simply. "A housewarming party." A long pause. "Oh. That sounds nice. I wish I'd known about it." "It was lovely," I replied, refusing to take the bait. "Well, maybe next time you could let us know? We would have loved to see your new place." "Maybe," I said. We both knew there wouldn't be a next time. That was the extent of it for a while. Mom would make comments. Jessica would try a different approach, asking pointed questions about my new life. I deflected. Meanwhile, my actual life was flourishing. My business was booming. David and I had a perfect small wedding. We honeymooned in Italy. We settled into married life with an ease that surprised everyone. It was a quiet, contented life. And for the first time ever, I felt truly at peace. But peace, I was about to learn, was something my family couldn't tolerate for long. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Mom's voice was brighter than usual, which immediately put me on alert. "Sarah, honey, I have some exciting news. Jessica and Mike bought a new house. It's absolutely gorgeous. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen. You know, where all the young professionals are moving." I made appropriate murmuring sounds while she described it. "Big. Expensive, designed to impress rather than live in. She's planning a housewarming party for next month," Mom continued. "The whole family's invited, of course. I'm so excited to see everyone together." The emphasis on everyone wasn't subtle. I was expected to attend. That sounds nice, I said. You'll come, won't you? Jessica specifically asked me to make sure you'd be there. Of course she had. Jessica always needed an audience, and I'd always been her perfect foil, the less successful sister whose presence made her accomplishments shine brighter. I'll have to check my schedule, I said. Oh, come on, Claudia. It's family. Whatever you have going on can wait. That casual dismissal of my time, my work, my life, was classic. In Mom's mind, my successful business was still just a hobby I could drop. I'll let you know, I said, firmly. I sat in my office for a long time after that call. Part of me wanted to decline and avoid the whole thing. But another part was curious. I wanted to see this house, this latest production. I wanted to see if Jessica and Mike were as happy as they pretended. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to see how my family would react to the person I'd become. David listened patiently that evening. Do you want to go? He asked. I'm not sure, I admitted. Part of me thinks it would be masochistic. But part of me is curious about the house, about them, about whether they can see who I am now, or if they'll still treat me like the disappointing little sister who can't get her life together. David was quiet for a moment. You know their opinion of you doesn't change who you are, right? You've built an amazing life. You're successful. You're happy. You're loved. Whether they can see that or not is their problem, not yours. I know, I said. But I spent so many years trying to earn their approval. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be completely free of that. Maybe going would help you find out. He was right. I called Mom the next day and told her David and I would be there. The housewarming party was exactly what I'd expected. The house was enormous, sterile, filled with expensive furniture that looked like it had been chosen by a decorator, not by people with love. It felt more like a networking event than a celebration. Jessica looked beautiful, designer dress, perfect hair and makeup. But there was something brittle about her smile, something desperate in the way she flitted from group to group, demanding admiration. Mike was holding court by the bar, telling the same old college football stories. He'd gained weight, lost hair, and had a soft, defeated quality that made me feel a little sad. Mom and Dave were in their element, playing the proud parents, showing off Jessica's accomplishments. They introduced David and me to a few people as Jessica's sister and her husband, never my name, never what I did. David squeezed my hand. How are you doing? He murmured. Better than I expected, I realized. Watching this performance, I felt detached, not hurt. These people were strangers to me now, playing roles in a drama I was no longer invested in. The house tour was painful. Jessica led us through each room, pointing out every expensive feature. The master bedroom closet was bigger than my first apartment. The kitchen had professional-grade appliances that had clearly never been used. What do you think? Jessica asked when we were alone for a moment. It's very impressive, I said honestly. I know it's bigger than what you're used to, she said, that familiar condescending smile. But Mike and I are planning for the future. We want kids, and we want them to have space to grow. The implication was clear, my house was small, inadequate, for someone with limited ambitions. 3 years ago, that comment would have stung like hell. Now, I just felt sorry for her. It's beautiful, Jessica. I hope you'll be very happy here. Something in my tone must have surprised her. She looked at me more closely. You seem different, she said. Do I? More confident. I guess it suits you. It was. Probably the closest thing to a compliment she'd ever given me, and I found myself genuinely touched. Thank you, I said. I'm happy. Good, she said, and for a moment, she almost seemed to mean it. The rest of the party was uneventful. David charmed everyone, even my parents. We left early. Driving home, David asked, so? It was exactly what I expected, I said. Expensive, impressive, and completely empty of any real warmth or personality. And how do you feel about that? I thought about it. Relieved, actually. I used to think I wanted that life. The big house, the perfect marriage, the family approval. But seeing it up close, I realized it would make me miserable. Even if it came with my family's respect. Especially then, because it would mean I'd had to become someone I'm not to earn something that should have been given freely. We drove home in comfortable silence. When we pulled into our driveway, I looked at our house. Our beautiful, modest, character-filled house. And a wave of gratitude washed over me. This was home. This was enough. This was everything. I thought that would be the end of it. I'd seen Jessica's new life, confirmed I didn't want it, and proved to myself I'd moved beyond needing their validation. Case closed. But families, especially dysfunctional ones, don't let go that easily. The comments started a few weeks later. Mom would call, casually mentioning Jessica's exciting decorating plans, or Mike talking about getting a boat. There were subtle digs about my little house, questions about when David and I were planning to upgrade. Jessica started posting more frequently on social media, documenting every expensive purchase, new furniture, professional landscaping, a renovation of the already perfect kitchen. Each post seemed designed to showcase a lifestyle that was increasingly extravagant, and frankly, unsustainable on their salaries. I started to wonder where the money was coming from. Jessica made good money, but not that good. Mike's salary was decent, but nothing spectacular. The house alone must have stretched their budget to the breaking point, and they were adding expenses weekly. My suspicions were confirmed when David and I ran into Mike at the grocery store one Saturday. He looked tired, stressed. David mentioned the beautiful new house, and Mike's smile was strained. "Yeah, it's great," he said. "A little more than we bargained for financially, but Jessica has her heart set on making it perfect." "These things have a way of working out," David said diplomatically. "I hope so. Between you and me, I'm picking up extra shifts and considering a weekend job. The mortgage payments are significant." I felt a stab of sympathy for him. Mike might not be the most ambitious, but he was decent. "If you ever need any financial advice," I found myself saying, "I do consulting work. I might be able to help you figure out a budget that works." Mike's face lit up with genuine gratitude. "Really? That would be amazing. Jessica keeps saying, we just need to make more money, but I think we might need to spend less instead." We exchanged numbers. As we drove home, David shook his head. "You realize Jessica's going to hate that, right? Her little sister helping her husband with money problems." "Probably," I said. "But Mike seems like he's drowning, and I can't just watch that happen. Even after everything, Mike never did anything to me. His only crime was marrying my sister." David laughed. "You're a better person than I am. I'd probably let him sink just to spite her." "No, you wouldn't," I countered. "You'd do the same thing I'm doing because it's the right thing to do." He reached over and squeezed my hand. "This is why I love you." Mike never called. I wasn't entirely surprised. Either he decided against it, or Jessica found out and put a stop to it. Either way, probably for the best. I had enough drama. But the spending continued, and so did the social media posts. Jessica seemed to be in competition with someone, though I couldn't figure out who. The posts became more frequent, more elaborate. Professional photos, videos of her home gym, expensive dinners, weekend getaways. It all came to a head 6 months later, when Mom called with news that shouldn't have been surprising, but somehow still was. "Claudia," she said, her voice strained. "I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to hear it from someone else." My stomach dropped. Conversations starting like that never end well. "What's wrong?" "Jessica and Mike are getting divorced." I sat down heavily in my office chair. "What happened?" "I don't know all the details. Jessica says they grew apart, wanted different things. Mike apparently wasn't supportive of her ambitions. That was Jessica's version, anyway. I wondered what Mike's would be. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I truly meant it. Whatever my issues with Jessica, I didn't wish unhappiness on her. She's having a hard time, Mom continued, her voice moving into the familiar plea. The house is too expensive for her to manage on her own, and Mike's being difficult about the settlement. She might have to sell. There it was. The real reason for the call. That's tough, I said. I was hoping, well, I know you're doing well financially now. Maybe you could help her out, just temporarily, until she gets back on her feet. The audacity of it took my breath away. After years of treating me like a failure, after excluding me and dismissing my accomplishments, they wanted me to bail Jessica out of the financial hole she'd dug for herself. Mom, I know it's a lot to ask, but she's your sister, Claudia. Family helps family. Family helps family? Where had that philosophy been when I was struggling through community college while Jessica got a free ride? Where had it been when I was working retail jobs, getting condescending advice about my life choices? Where had it been for the 30 years I'd been trying to earn a place in this family? I'll think about it, I said, because I wasn't ready to have this fight over the phone. Thank you, sweetheart. I knew you'd understand. Jessica will be so relieved. After I hung up, I stared at the financial statements on my desk. I was doing well. Better than well. I could afford to help Jessica without even noticing the financial impact. The question wasn't whether I could help, but whether I should. David found me there. Bad day? He asked. I told him everything. He listened, jaw tightening. So, let me get this straight, he said when I finished. Your sister spent herself into debt trying to maintain a lifestyle she couldn't afford, is getting divorced partly because of the financial stress she created, and now your mother wants you to pay for her mistakes. That's about the size of it. And what did your mother say about all the times you could have used help? All the times Jessica got support that you didn't? Nothing. Because that's different, apparently. David sat across from me. Claudia, you know I'll support whatever decision you make, but I have to ask, what do you think would happen if you said no? They'd be angry, disappointed. They'd probably stop speaking to me altogether. And would that be a loss? It was a fair question. What exactly would I be losing? Occasional phone calls where I was made to feel inadequate? Invitations to events where I was treated like an afterthought? The privilege of being the family scapegoat? I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me thinks it would be a relief. But they're still my family. Being related to someone doesn't give them the right to treat you badly, and it doesn't obligate you to enable their poor decisions. He was right, of course. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two different things. I wrestled with the decision for days. My best friend Sarah was characteristically blunt. Are you insane? These people have treated you like garbage for decades, and now they want you to pay for the privilege? Tell them to pound sand. But I also found myself thinking about Mike, and despite everything, I did feel sorry for Jessica. Divorce is hard on everyone. In the end, it was a conversation with David's sister, Emma, a therapist specializing in family dynamics, that helped me see things clearly. The question isn't whether you can afford to help, she said over dinner one night. The question is whether helping would actually be helpful. What do you mean? If you bail Jessica out, what does she learn? That her choices don't have consequences? That she can always count on other people to fix her problems? Is that really helping her? Or is it just enabling her to continue making poor decisions? But if I don't help, she could lose her house. She could lose the house she bought with money she didn't have, to impress people she doesn't even like. Would that really be the worst thing in the world? Emma was right. Helping Jessica avoid consequences wouldn't teach her anything. It would just postpone the reckoning. I called Mom the next day and told her I wouldn't be giving Jessica money. The reaction was exactly what I'd expected: hurt, anger, accusations of selfishness and disloyalty. Mom cried, said she was disappointed. Dave lectured me about family obligations. Jessica herself called later that week, and that conversation was even worse. "I can't believe you'd abandon me like this," she sobbed. "I'm your sister, Claudia. How can you watch me lose everything and not care?" "I do care," I said, my voice steady. "But giving you money won't solve the real problem." "What real problem?" "The problem is that you're living beyond your means, and have been for years. Giving you money now would just enable you to keep making the same mistakes." "So, you're going to let me lose my house to teach me a lesson? What kind of person does that?" "The kind of person who's learned that sometimes love means saying no." She hung up on me. The next few months were difficult. Jessica did lose the house. She couldn't afford the mortgage, and Mike refused to keep paying for a place he didn't live in. She moved into a smaller apartment, had to sell most of her expensive furniture. Mom and Dave were furious with me, blaming me for Jessica's hardship. I was no longer welcome at family gatherings. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was being punished for the exact same behavior they'd always rewarded in Jessica, looking out for my own interests. But something unexpected happened as the months passed. Without the pressure of maintaining that expensive lifestyle, Jessica started to seem lighter. Her social media posts became less frequent, more genuine. Instead of expensive purchases, she posted pictures of books, walks, meals she was cooking in her small apartment kitchen. She got a new job with a smaller company, less money, but better work-life balance. She started therapy. She adopted a rescue dog, a scruffy little mutt named Charlie, who appeared in almost every photo, looking absolutely delighted. 6 months after the divorce was final, I ran into her at the farmer's market. She was buying vegetables, and she looked genuinely happy for the first time in years. "Claudia," she said, no anger in her voice, just surprise. "Hey, Jessica. How are you doing?" "Good, actually. Really good." She gestured to her shopping bag. "I'm learning to cook. Turns out it's kind of therapeutic." "That's great. You look peaceful." She laughed. "That's not a word anyone's ever used to describe me before, but yeah, I think I am. Losing the house was awful at the time, but it forced me to figure out what I actually wanted instead of what I thought I was supposed to want." "And what do you want?" "Simplicity. A life that fits me instead of one that looks good from the outside." We talked for a few more minutes, the most genuine conversation we'd had in years. When we parted ways, she hugged me. "I was really angry with you for not helping me," she said. "But I think you were right. I needed to figure this out on my own." It wasn't an apology, exactly. But it was acknowledgement. And it was more than I'd ever expected to get. Which brings us to 3 weeks ago. Mom called with another invitation. "I'm taking Jessica out for her birthday dinner," she said. "Just a small celebration at that new place downtown. Would you like to join us?" It was an olive branch. Mom was ready to have me back, now that the crisis was over and I'd been proven right. "I'll think about it," I said. "Please do. It would mean a lot to Jessica, and to me." In the end, I decided to go. Not because I was eager to rejoin the family dynamic, but because I was curious. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to test myself. To see if I could sit at that table and maintain the boundaries I'd worked so hard to establish. Which brings us to last night. Sitting in that overpriced bistro. Mom, gushing about Jessica's housewarming party from the year before. "Your sister's housewarming party was so lovely," Mom said, cutting into her salmon. "When are you going to catch up?" The question hit me like a slap. Here we were, supposedly celebrating Jessica's new chapter, and Mom couldn't resist a dig. After everything that had happened, after Jessica herself had acknowledged her old life was unsustainable, Mom was still holding it up as the standard I should aspire to. The fact that Jessica's success had been built on debt and delusion? Didn't matter. The fact that I'd built a genuinely stable, happy life? Didn't register. I looked at her, fork poised in midair, waiting for me to apologize for my smaller house, my quieter life, my different choices. And in that moment, I realized, I was done apologizing. I hosted mine last year, I said calmly, my voice cutting through the polite hum of the restaurant. You just weren't on the guest list. Her fork froze. The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica's wine glass stopped at her lips. Dave looked up from his phone, a genuine shock plastered across his face. Even other diners seemed to sense that something significant had happened. Mom's face cycled through confusion, hurt, anger, and finally, a kind of wounded dignity. I don't understand, she said finally, her voice barely a whisper. I bought a house 2 years ago, I continued, unwavering. David and I had a housewarming party last year. It was lovely. About 40 people, all of whom actually care about us. You weren't invited because you've spent the last 30 years making it clear that you don't care about my life unless it reflects well on you. Claudia, Jessica said quietly, almost pleading. Maybe we should. No, I cut her off, my eyes locked on Mom's. I'm tired of pretending this is a normal family dynamic. I'm tired of being treated like a consolation prize and then expected to be grateful for scraps of attention. Mom's eyes filled with tears. How can you say that? You're my daughter. I love you. Do you? I challenged, my voice shaking slightly now, but with determination. Because love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's actions. It's showing up. It's being proud of someone for who they are, not disappointed in them for who they're not. I am proud of you, she stammered, but her voice lacked conviction. When? When have you ever been proud of me? When I graduated from college working 2 jobs? When I started my own business? When I married a wonderful man who loves me? Because I don't remember any celebrations for those things. The tears were flowing freely down her cheeks now. I didn't know you felt this way. That's because you never asked. You were too busy comparing me to Jessica and finding me lacking. I turned to Jessica, who was staring at her plate, probably wanting the earth to swallow her whole. And you, I said, my voice softer, you went along with it because it made you feel special to be the favorite. Jessica finally looked up, and I saw something that might have been shame in her eyes. Claudia, I don't blame you for that, I continued. We were kids, and kids take love wherever they can get it. But we're adults now, and I'm done playing this game. I stood up, placing my napkin deliberately on the table. I have a beautiful house with a husband who adores me. A successful business that I built myself. I have friends who value me, and a life that makes me happy. I don't need to catch up to anyone, Mom. Because I'm not in a race. I pulled out my wallet, left enough cash for my meal and a generous tip. Happy birthday, Jessica, I said, genuinely, as I walked past her. I truly hope you find what you're looking for. And then, I walked out. And I didn't look back.